Bulavinaka and warm Pacific greetings to everyone. Welcome to today's Pacific Farmer Organization's webinar, Pacific Farmers, Climate Adaptation, and COP30 Insights. We are excited to share new research findings from a collaboration between Pacific Farmer Organization and the University of Notre Dame. Today, we will explore how farmers in Fiji and Tonga are adapting to climate change, the critical role of farmer organizations play in supporting them, and connect with these realities to the global stage with insights from the COP30 in Brazil that was held last year. We have a diverse group joining us today, including farmer leaders, policymakers, donors, and development partners. To get us started, I'd like to hand over to Law for our first question. Please use the chat box to respond. We would like to know, where are you joining in from, and what organizations or what organization are you representing this morning? Please feel free to put in your answers in the chat box. Law has posted a question. Where are you joining in from this morning, and what organization are you representing? We have Kathy from Australia. Good morning, Kathy. We have Kyle joining in from sunny Nandi, Fiji, from PFO, Naka. We have Dr. Simsa from PNG Women in Agriculture. Good morning. And we have Ili joining in from Suva, from the Pacific Farm Organization. We also have Mingwei. Aloha, Mingwei, from Hawaii, joining in from with Hawaii Farm to School. We also have Karen, Ula Karen from the University of Notre Dame. It's good to see a lot of the diverse group of people and organizations that are joining us this morning. We extend these greetings to everyone that's joining us. Nakawakalevu for taking the time to join us this morning. We'll move on to our first session this morning, which is the Pacific Farm Organization and University of Notre Dame research presentation. The first presentation will be done by Kyle Stice, Executive Director of Pacific Farm Organization, and Angela Birch, our Programs Manager, looking after M&E. They are joining in from Nandi, Pacific Farm Organization headquarters, and I will now hand the floor over to Angela and Kyle to take us through the methodology and the exciting outcomes from this partnership with the University of Notre Dame. Kyle and Angela, please take the floor. Vinaka.
Thank you, Mary. Pacific greetings to everybody online today. So Kyle, the findings in this new research report are exciting. We've launched them on our website, both a white paper as well as an infographic. And what it does is present the research that was conducted by 4 University of Notre Dame master's students who worked in collaboration with farmer organizations and different partners in both Tonga and Fiji to produce this exciting work. Please, can you remind me of how we got into this partnership with the University of Notre Dame?
Thank you, Angela, and good morning to everyone. Actually, this partnership goes all the way back to COP28, which was in Dubai. And when PFO was at that COP, we met multiple partners who were looking to do research in the Pacific. One of them was the University of Notre Dame. And fast forward, we had the opportunity to host 4 amazing students from actually around the world, but studying through the University of Notre Dame. And Angela, I think it's just one of these examples. Sometimes we are looking for these big outcomes from COP, but sometimes it's these small partnerships that we see as a result of these networking. And talking about COP, we're excited to hear from Alan and Ili about COP30. But actually, Angela, you spent more time with these research students than I did on the ground in both Tonga and in Fiji. What can you tell us about their methodology, how they conducted their research?
Thanks very much, Kyle. Laura's actually going to share a slide just showing on how we collected the data. But basically, extensive field research was conducted in both Tonga and Fiji over an 8-week period. So as you can see, there were different tools that we used to obtain the data. We had approximately 133 individuals who responded to a survey. There were focus group discussions with farmers that were conducted in communities where the students, the research students actually went to farms directly, set up tables on the farms at times to have these discussions. There was also visits to halls, to homes in the communities to engage directly with the farming households. There were also meetings that were held with key stakeholders from government, as well as development partners, such as our donors. There were NGOs, CSOs, and of course, our own fellow farmer organizations. We were fortunate that this field work was actually overlapping with the Pacific Week of Agriculture in Tonga in late May. So this allowed for greater engagement with a whole number of people. And the data was analyzed, and the report and infographic, as mentioned earlier, are now featured on the website, pacificfarmers.com. And this was co-developed between the research team as well as Pacific farmer organizations. And I would like to take this moment to acknowledge all the organizations, the individuals who contributed to make this such an exciting piece of work. I know you've had a chance to read through the document, as I have, Kyle. What were some of the findings, or what was key when you were reading through? What was one of the key findings?
Yeah, so I want to show this graphic here, which is the summary of one of the questions from respondents. And what you can see here is that from the 133 farmers that responded to this survey in Tonga and Fiji, they were asked, where do they source or where do they rely on for advice or services? Who do they turn to? And what stands out is that 69% of these respondents reported turning to farmer organizations for their support, compared with just 24% who reported that they rely on government support. So this was kind of an interesting data point that reveals where farmers are turning to for not just advice, but for services. And the report kind of describes about the bigger picture and provides some evidence kind of under describing that our government agencies, in fact, are underfunded, understaffed, and overburdened. In fact, the Pacific Island Extension Strategy Report for SPC describes an extension officer to farmer ratio in the Pacific being as high as 1 to 10,000. So one extension officer to 10,000 farmers. And in Fiji, one of the countries covered by this research, as reported by the Ministry of Agriculture in a 2024 report, that it's one extension officer to 1,000 farmers. So this makes it obviously regular and meaningful contact with farmers extremely difficult. And I think this helps to explain a little bit why farmers responding in this sort of way. So that was one interesting thing that stood out to me. What about you, Angela? Was there anything that really stood out to you?
Oh, yes. For me, Kyle, it was the focus group discussions where we were meeting directly with the farming household. And the sample smallholder farmers consistently reported high satisfaction with the support they received from farmer organizations compared to other service providers. This pattern was confirmed in the survey, where 74% of smallholder farmers who seek advice and services from farmer organizations rated it as very useful, and 25% of those surveyed said somewhat useful. In contrast, among those who sought government support, and as you highlighted with the stats you shared, only 40% considered it very useful and 45% somewhat useful. This shows higher satisfaction with agricultural advice and services provided by farmer organizations. There were farmers in the focus group discussions who were directly affiliated to farmer organizations, and they consistently reported that they had stronger relationships with farmer organizations compared to other service providers. And I'd like to quote one of the smallholder farmers from Tonga, who actually said, the farmer organization is going everywhere, and they sit with farmers and they talk and share opinions. Having said this, Kyle, government is still fundamental to supporting the development of agriculture. So farmer organizations continue to see themselves as development partners to government. Recent reports highlight, and this is on the next slide, that currently less than 1% of climate finance, global climate finance, reaches the farmer, and that approximately 443 billion US dollars is needed by farmers to adapt to climate change. Hence, this importance of the team effort through government and its development partners to ensure that this funding reaches the grassroots.
Yeah, that's so true, Angela. Partnerships really are critical here. It's not about either farmer organizations or government but working in partnership and everybody playing their critical role. And this kind of brings me to some of the key recommendations. And again, we're just kind of glossing over this really interesting set of research, but I wanted to point out these recommendations that come out. So these are more generally for governments in the region, but also for development partners, research partners. When we see the level of engagement between farmers and their relevant farmer organizations, the encouragement is to formalize farmer organizations as co-delivery partners in national and regional adaptation programs. When we're investing in climate adaptation, that we see farmer organizations as an important partner to help deliver these services. The second one is the need to invest in institutional and logistic capacity to strengthen these service delivery. While we see positive results, still there are huge amounts of farmers that are not part of farmer organizations. And so we see an important investment opportunity to help strengthen these organizations to service more farmers and to service them in a more effective way. The third is the need to improve coordination mechanisms. And I think this is what you were talking about, Angela. We can just do so much more if we are working together. Farmer organizations, governments, development partners. So the report really tries to encourage this better coordination. Fourth is that we need to tailor the services provided according to farmers' needs. The focus group discussions went into a lot of detail about how some programs are just not appropriate. The application process is not appropriate. A lot of them are more geared towards larger farmers who have the capacity to fill out lengthy reports. And so that was another strong recommendation. And finally, to increase farmer representation and advocacy in policy processes. Farmers want to be involved in climate adaptation design, delivery. They want to be a part of the solution to this large problem. So again, I encourage you to check out these reports and especially hone in on some of these important recommendations.
Those recommendations are really strong, Kyle. And we don't have sufficient time to run through all the findings of the report. However, everyone's encouraged to take a scan of the QR code that's on the screen and give yourself some time to run through or read through the report and, of course, look through the infographics. As I mentioned, the QR code is on the screen that will help you to access the report. Thank you for having this discussion with me, Kyle. And Mary, from us, that's a cut. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Angela.
Naka. Thank you so much, Angela and Kyle, for that insightful presentation. It is powerful to see the data highlighting that 69% of respondents turned to farmer organizations for support. For our attendees, I believe that there was a QR code that was shown in the presentation slide that will take you to the research paper that Kyle and Angela was just talking about. But in case you haven't had the chance to scan the QR code, there's a link in the chat box that will take you to the Pacific Farmer Organization website. On the publications page, you'll find this report that Angela and Kyle had just mentioned, improving access to climate adaptation to support Pacific smallholder farmers in Tonga and Fiji. We now want to hear from our audience, our attendees this morning. I'd like to know there's a slide that Law will share soon What stood out from you? What stood out from you from the research findings that Angela and Kyle just shared with us? And how could these research findings be used in your work? Please, if you can enter your answers in the chat box. Also, if you have any questions that we could attend to, please use the Q&A button as well. But otherwise, please feel free to enter your answer in the chat box or in the Slidos that Law has shared. The question is, what stood out to you from the research findings, and how could these findings or research findings be used in your work? We have some answers coming in. Knowing where farmers are going for support helps with targeting our extension work. We have the importance of working with government. We need to try and collaborate better. We have answers on the farmers want to engage at the policy level. We need to involve them. We have answers coming in from the Q&A. Important prerequisite to make it that the sample of interviewed farmers were primarily FO affiliated farmers. Nevertheless, the results are interesting to review and validate the work being undertaken to support farmer organizations. NACA, partnership is important. Don't forget the smaller farmers and what they need. So these are the answers that are coming in. We also have an answer from the floor, the high percentage of farmers that work with farmer organizations. We farmer organizations need to strengthen our links with our agriculture department. We are aware of available farmer support and fieldwork needs collaboration. Thank you for those answers. I'll now move on to the next part of our webinar, which is the COP30 insights and what do we look forward to after that COP30. Moving from research now onto the global advocacy, we now turn our attention to the recent experience at the COP30 that was held in Berlin, Brazil. And we had a few of our representatives from the Pacific Farmer Organization that represented farmers to the COP30. And we have Ellen and Ely joining us this morning. Ellen with Te Taviuni, based here in Fiji, and Ely with Pacific Farmer Organization. She's our programs manager with policy and advocacy. I'd now like to invite Ellen and Ely to share the reflection on connecting global climate negotiations to the realities we face here in the Pacific. Naka.
Bulavanaka, everybody. Bulavanaka, and thank you for joining us today. Like Mere mentioned, my name is Ili, and I work with the PFO Secretariat from Suva. So this morning, I'll be briefly sharing an update on Pacific farmers on our engagement at COP last year, with, of course, a more detailed account captured in the report that we'll be launching today. So basically, this report it highlights the advocacy efforts of the Pacific Farmer Delegation, and it explains why their presence at COP was so important. But to begin, I'd like to answer the question of why. Why farmers? And in our case, particularly, why Pacific farmers? Why they need to be present in these decision-making forums like COP? So As you know, we here in the Pacific are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, and more so Pacific farmers. They're on the front line of climate change. We're already seeing the increase in intensity and frequency of cyclones every year in the Pacific. The heavy rain spells that we are seeing yearly now, and the floods that are associated with that, spells of droughts and saltwater intrusion. We're also seeing a shift in planting seasons here in the Pacific. And these and so much more are affecting the livelihoods and are threatening food security, not only in our communities, but in our divisions, in our provinces. And if it's not properly managed, these are the things that will affect our food security within the region. These are the realities that farmers have to live with on a daily basis. And globally, a figure that has been released probably a few years ago, that family farmers produce a large amount of food for the world. Around 70 to 80% of the world's food is produced by smallholder farmers. And this is particularly true here in the Pacific. But decisions that are made at these global decision-making forums like COP, decisions that shape climate financing, climate assistance, agricultural policies, adaptation efforts, decisions are being made at these forums without the voices of farmers being present, without farmers sitting at the table to give a clear picture of the reality on ground. So oftentimes the policies and decisions made in these forums are not actually reflecting the reality on ground. So that is why the Pacific Farmers Organization, with other farm organizations around the world, saw a need and recognized the need that farmers need to be part of COPs, and not only the climate change COPs, but the COPs for the other two Rio conventions. So last year, it marked an important milestone for PFO. It was the first time we were able to support a delegation of 6 to attend COP in Brazil. So the delegation included farmer leaders from Tete Tavioni, Ellen Peterson, and you'll hear from him shortly. Clayton Simamau from the Samoa Farmers Association, a representative from PNG Women in Agriculture, Ms. Barbara Tommy, and Ms. Talonga Apa from Women in Business Development Incorporation, also from Samoa. And they were supported by 2 staff from the Pacific Farm Organization, myself and Mere. We were able to assist with the coordination, advocacy, and our communications and comms and advocacy work throughout the 2 weeks at COP. But I think, as some of you are aware, attending COP is very complex and is a very costly exercise, particularly for small island farmer organizations. And this is often, sadly, the main barrier that limits farmers attending these sort of global discussions. But in our case, fortunately, last year, we were able to attend through the support of our partners. We were able to get support from the governments of Fiji and Samoa through accreditation to attend these meetings. The Australian government, through the PRS project implemented by the International Fund for Agricultural Development, we were also able to get financial support from them, in addition with the support offered by the Global Agriculture and Food Security Program, FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, and of course the World Rural Forum, who supported the participation of one of our farmers, Barbara. But these are just the financial support. Aside from the financial support, we were also able to receive technical support in the preparation and the lead up to COP. We had a lot of support from FFCA in regards to also our media training our farmers to be able to participate in these sort of forums and to be able to share their stories. So what we were able to achieve there, so our advocacy efforts focused on farmer-led adaptation, inclusive adaptation efforts, direct and accessible climate finance, and we were also advocating for the use and recognition of traditional knowledge and practical solutions that we already are implementing here in the Pacific. But for PFO, the advocacy that we did went beyond just visibility, and it also centered on building new partnerships and strengthening the existing partnerships that we already have. The PFO delegation, the farmers did a really good job. They participated in a number of key side events and panels where they shared their experiences and their demonstrated activities that they're implementing here in the Pacific, their farmer-led approaches to resilience and accessing finance here in the Pacific and also in their respective countries. So alongside this, we were also able to have bilateral meetings, particularly with the Australian government representatives. We were able to share climate resilient agriculture and climate services and see how support can also be tailored to the Pacific and the realities and the need of our farmers. We were also connected with other farmers and farmer networks from other regions, also including traditional indigenous farmers from Australia through Ambition Loop. This was very beneficial for our farmers because, as most of you know, they benefit a lot from farmer-to-farmer learning exchanges. We're not only able to learn a lot from other farm organizations, we were also able to learn a lot in regards to policy and advocacy since PFO is relatively new to this space, but we drew a lot of, we were able to gain a lot of knowledge from the other farm organizations, representatives that have been part of COPs for a number of years. So together these engagements really strengthened the existing partnerships that we have, and we hope that we will continue to build on these partnerships, particularly as we prepare for the pre-COP being held here in the Pacific this year, and later on at COP31 in Turkey. That's just very briefly on our participation and engagement in COP. Of course, more detail of what happened and the farmers' engagement can be accessed through our report. On the screen right now is the QR code that you can always use to access our report. It's available on the PFO website. And I think Laura and Mary will also share the link on the chat box. But right now, I'd just like to give space to Alan to take the floor and share his experience. Alan is a PFO board member, and he's also a farmer representing Tete Taviuni. He was part of the delegation to COP last year. Alan, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, COP meeting, as a farmer, attending such an important meeting was a real honor for me and the other farmers that attended. It's a bit overwhelming, to attend a meeting of such magnitude and having so many important people there. But, farmers' voices need to be heard. And when we were there, people listened to us. Because when we spoke, we actually spoke from the heart. We spoke from our personal experiences. And I think this is what people need to hear. There are a lot of NGOs, a lot of governments working in this space of climate change and resilience and adaptation. But we, the farmers, we are at the forefront, and we have our own traditional, our own ideas and our own methods of overcoming or being more resilient. And what we need, and our message that we took across the COP was, we needed more financial support. We had good ideas, we have very low-tech solutions to a lot of the problems, but we need support. And as farmers, it is not something that we do just for the sake of doing it. We do it because our family survival depends on us adapting and becoming more resilient, because we are living at the forefront of climate change. And here, us farmers from the Pacific, especially, we are experiencing climate change much more than a lot of the other farm organizations. But when we go to these meetings and we meet with other farmers, we find that we are all talking the same message, we are on the same level, and we can share experiences, we can learn from each other. And our takeaway from this big meeting is, when farmers get together, we are able to share, and we are able to make our voices heard better, because people listen when we are speaking from the heart.
Thank you so much, Ellen and Ely, for sharing your experience at COP, and Ely for sharing the importance of why Pacific Farmer voices and advocacy at the global level is important for us. Till now, I'd like to also share in the chat box the report that Ely had mentioned earlier regarding the COP30 report. If you didn't have the chance to scan the QR code, please, there's a link provided in the chat box that will take you to the report, the COP30 report that was released and is now available on our resource page on our Pacific Farm Organization website. In your free time, please feel free to read through or even download the report. And we'll also now hand the time to Law. If she could please share the last slide of question that we have for you, everyone. Please also feel free to use the chat box and the Q&A box if you have any questions for us this morning. You can see on the slide the question for us this morning: what do you want to see at the pre-COP or at the COP31 this year to elevate the realities of Pacific farmers? Question has been posted. Looking ahead, what do you want to see at the pre-COP that will be held here in the Pacific, or at COP31 to elevate realities for Pacific farmers? Please feel free to put in your answers in the chat box or use the Slido that's been shared on the screen. We have answers coming in. What do you want to see at the pre-COP or at the COP31? We want to see more farmers involved to share their problems and solutions. We want to see focus on local knowledge and gender dynamics. We want to see more commitments made by governments and donors for farmer organizations. Please feel free to use the chat box if you have difficulties using the Slidos link and the app. You can also use the chat box to put in your answers. If you have a question, you could also post them in the chat box, or you could also use the Q&A, or you could also raise your hand, and then we can attend to you if you have any questions for us. Real climate finance reaching communities, making sure we connect the impacts of climate change with the food we eat and the farmers that grow them. Accessible financing for farmers. An answer coming in: I think it is important that there is more coordination between NGOs for more efficiency and answer farmers' needs. Okay. All right. This has been a very productive session. We've covered challenges faced by farmers, the trust placed in farm organizations, and the breakdown of climate finance systems. If you have any questions for us this morning, we've also opened up the floor. Please feel free to put in your questions in the chat box before we conclude our webinar this morning. Oops. There was another answer that came in. There was a good coordination amongst the Pacific CSOs that was attending COP, defining something we can definitely something that we can continue going into pre-COP. Okay. We also like to say a big thank you to our partners, yes, who supported the Pacific Farm Organization at COP. A question that's coming in. What plans does PFO have to amplify the voice of Pacific farmers for pre-COP and COP31? Maybe we'll hand over that question to Kyle.
Or maybe Ili. I know we're all eagerly awaiting which country will host the pre-COP so that we can really coordinate with the pre-COP host country to see how we can effectively bring space for farmers and also take COP outside of the fancy venue and out into the communities, onto the farms where they can see the reality. But Ili, you want to add on to that question?
Yes, thank you, Kyle. The Pacific CSOs continue to coordinate also in the lead up to pre-COP. Right now, our Pacific leaders have not made a decision on the venue of pre-COP, although we know the leaders meeting will be in Palau later this year. Whether the pre-COP will be held in conjunction to that or held somewhere else, we still have yet to hear from our leaders on that. But in preparation but we're not waiting. We're not waiting on the confirmation as yet. We're still going ahead with our preparation, with our coordination among specific CSOs. I think one of the main pushes from the Australian presidency was to ensure that not only we shed a light to the realities here in the Pacific in regards to face the challenges faced by climate change, but also the PRF fund that currently sits with the Pacific Forum Secretariat, and how best we as a region can also advocate for financing of that fund.
Also, I saw in the chat Kathy McGowan from Australia looking about ways that we can support. And I just wanted to point out that under our climate resilient farming framework, we have established this climate advisory council. So these are representatives from the various countries, farmer leaders who kind of help guide and direct. And they also appoint ambassadors, so people that can go and speak on behalf. So this is a great network that, of course, is always looking for any kind of support, as Ili mentioned, training, media training, public speaking training, helping to package messaging with video content. So there's lots of opportunities there. Also, under our climate resilient farming framework, we have women's empowerment and agriculture officers in each of the 7 countries. This is an amazing network of women who are working to mainstream our support to women farmers, but also that transform our farmer organizations to be more gender sensitive. And so this network of our women's empowerment and agriculture officers are also always keen to get more support, technical support, capacity building. So Kathy or anybody else listening, I want to point you guys to those two networks. Ili is kind of primary program manager for our CRF, but you can reach out to any of us and we'd love to kind of connect you and see how we can get our members and our local farmer organization leaders better equipped when given the opportunity to be on this stage. And again, I want to thank DFAT for their support for CRF, which has enabled all of this work to take place. So thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you so much, Ili and Kyle, for that. Before we let everyone go, we'd like to take a group picture. Before we do that, we have Veniana Nawado. I think she has a question for us. Veniana, I'll unmute your mic. Please feel free. We have a question, Veniana. You could pose your question. Oh, okay. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, we'd like to take a group picture with everyone that's joined us for our webinar this morning. Please don't leave it. We'll ask to promote you as a panelist. That way, you'll be able to come into the screen and we'll be able to take a group picture. So please, there'll be an invite coming into you right now, promoting you as a panelist. Please feel free to open your camera and then we will take a group picture together. Yeah, and before we end our webinar this morning, we'd like to acknowledge and say a big thank you to our partners and our attendees, especially our partners, including the DFAT, the Australian government, the European Union, EFED, the World Rural Forum, GAFSP, FAO, SPC, and the University of Notre Dame for making this work possible. The webinar recording will be shared by the end of this week. Please check out our social media accounts or LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, we will be sharing the recordings via YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, Pacific Farmers Organization on YouTube. There's a request coming in right now to your screen asking you to be promoted as a panelist. We'd like to take a group picture with everyone. Please, if you could accept that request, and that will allow you to come into the screen. You can open up your camera and we will ask Law to take that group picture for us. When you're ready, Law, they're slowly opening up their cameras. It's okay if you can't open your camera, but thank you so much for joining us this morning.
All right. Okay. Please, everybody, face the camera and just put a good, big bulla smile. Smile for a while I take a few shots from my end, please. Exercise the lips. One more. Beautiful. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you
can
very
see some
much.
of our University of Notre Dame students all bundled up. Hope you stay warm over there. Nice to see everyone joining. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Naka
Thank you, everyone.
Wakalevu, Naka.
Thank you.